our topic today is we all have mental health. Again, as I said, I'm Barry Schreier. I'm the director of the University Counseling Service. I'm actually going to invite Maya back on if she will, so that you can do a quick introduction of yourself so everyone will know who you are.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Maya Thomas. I also work with orientation services here on campus as an orientation leader. It's my first year doing that, so it's been a really great experience. But I will be a third-year student this year on campus. I'm a human physiology major on the pre-medicine track. I graduated high school in Ankeny, Iowa, so I lived in Iowa for a long time. Iowa is definitely my home, but Iowa City is my home away from home. So
awesome. Maya, thanks so much and welcome. Maya's going to watch the Q&A for us. So again, as Bree said, if you have some questions you want to ask, please be sure to put those in the Q&A and Maya will watch those for us. If there are questions we need to answer during, we certainly will. Otherwise, we will be sure to leave some time at the end to address whatever questions that you all may have. Okay. Again, welcome. Our topic today is we all have mental health, and that's true. We all have mental health. Your students who are coming to campus, they all have mental health, but what can happen is challenges can arise that may give challenge to maintaining one's mental health. And certainly in our current time of the pandemic, which has been sort of an unprecedented, difficult year because of COVID-19, there also is great racial reckoning going on in our country, which also reminds us that there are folks amongst us who are making much greater, heavier lifts and bearing many more burdens than many of us to pursue on with their lives. And so in these two sort of pandemics, as you will, it's been a challenge. And so we're going to take some time today then to talk about some lessons and tips to help your student as they come to campus and make their way to campus and are on campus, to help them keep their mental health. Okay, so that's our topic for today. So let's get going. So let's practice our first poll. So if you have gone in, you can kind of see, if you've not done this already, you can see text Barry Schrei 579 to 37607. Once you're in, let us know where you're coming in from. Where are you? So if you'll text in your city or town and then the full name of your state that you're from, and this is going to build a word cloud for us so we can see where everyone is that's who's attending today. So as soon as you're ready, go ahead and send that in, and we're going to find out where folks are from. So we have some folks from Iowa. Gosh, that never happens. There's never anybody from Iowa at this presentation. So we have some folks from Iowa. It's great. Some friends from Illinois, our state, to our neighbors to the east. That's awesome. I see someone from Maryland, California, Missouri. Yowza, we are from all over the place. That's really exciting. Now, this is a word cloud. And as you know, one of the rules of word clouds is the bigger the word and the more centered it is, the more of you are saying it. So we clearly are have a dominance of folks from Iowa and Illinois, but clearly some friends of ours who are coming in from all over the country. We're so glad you're here. It's really great to see you. Our friends from Thousand Oaks, all the way on the West Coast. That's great. A lot of Chicago folks, not unusual. And again, San Jose, great. Maryland, excellent. Well, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for taking time across our many time zones to be here this evening, at least here in Iowa this evening. And we are going to press ourselves on, and you see how the word clouds work. So let's make our way forward, and we will find out a little bit about, again, how to help your mental health. So let me go over a little bit of agenda so you know what's going to happen. I was always told when you present, tell people what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So let me tell you what I'm going to tell you. And what I say is we may or may not do today. This is going to depend on you all. If we get through the whole dog and pony show, the whole PowerPoint, great. It's all useful information, hopefully, to you. If we don't get through all of it, because maybe you all start asking questions and we feel it's important to address them now, we may not get through the whole dog and pony show, but that's good. We addressed your questions and you helped shape the presentation today. So what we may or may not do today is this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quiz of your CMH IQ, your campus mental health IQ. We're going to do a little quiz. It won't be me up here sort of yammering on about sort of these things. We're going to check in with you and see what you know. The next thing we're going to do is we said a little bit about, like, all your students have mental health. It's awesome. And challenges arise. And when challenges arise, distress can happen. So we're going to take a little look at sort of what does that distress usually sound like when students start to call home in distress. We're going to make some word clouds because I'm going to check in with you all on sort of the advice you might have for our students who will talk a little bit with us about their distress. We're then going to talk about hints and tips for managing your student. I'm not going to make you do all the work. I actually have some things I'll contribute as well. The next thing we'll do is we're going to talk a little bit about our communication with each other. You're going to hear me say confidentiality several times, And that is an important thing for us to hold, but it doesn't mean that you and I can't continue to talk, because primarily we're going to talk a lot about who we think you are. And I'm going to say it for the first time right now, which is you are our best allies. You often are the ears and eyes for our students' distress before we may ever even see it. So you being our allies is really important, and so is our communication. We'll do a wee bit about meds, because some of our students will be coming to campus with psychoactive medications already in tow. And then lastly, we'll wrap ourselves up about a big blanket statement about all the resources that are on this campus. Okay, that's what I think we may or may not do. We'll just see how it goes. All right, away we go. So as promised, let's do a quiz. Let's find out exactly what you all know. So you're going to need this again. You don't need to text in my name to 6707. Once you're in the quiz, you're in the poll. So let's do our first question and see what you know. So this is an agree or disagree. So you'll send in either an A or a B. And the question is relationship problems are the primary reason why students come to the UCS? UCS being University Counseling Service, which is the name of the counseling service. So if you agree that relationship problems, and relationships can be with anybody, can be with boyfriends, girlfriends, roommates, professors, you all, but relationship problems are the primary reason why students come to the counseling center. So we're rolling in at about we're about 2/3 and 1/3, working towards a half and a half. 60-40, we're still getting some suggestions in. It looks like we're leaning just barely towards disagreement. Okay, so if you agreed with this statement that relationship problems are the primary reason, you're not right. It's not. I'm so sorry. Yes, disagree. Thank you for disagreeing if that was your response. The number one reason why students come to the counseling center is anxiety. And the number two reason is depression. And when I say anxiety and depression, anxiety, I don't mean like stressed out about a test. I mean diagnosable anxiety. When I say depression, I don't mean like, oh, just kind of having a down day. I'm talking about diagnosable depression, which students may have in a longer term way, or may first sort of emerge while they're on campus. Those are number 1 and 2. On a list of 10, that being 1 and 2, number 3 is relationships. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because when you start to engage your students, because you're concerned about making sure they keep the mental health they have, when you engage your students in like, have you thought about talking to someone? Students often will push back and be like, yeah, my problem too big, too small. And you can say, actually, no problem too big or too small, right? Because we have students that come from maybe longer standing, potentially chronic mental health concerns like anxiety, depression, or on the other side of the continuum, possibly more transient relationship concerns. No problem too big or too small to come to the counseling center. All right, good job with the first question. That was great. Well, you've got it down. We're moving on to number 2. Question numero 2. So last year, 1920, the University Counseling Service, UCS, we saw 1,810 students for what we call direct clinical service, meaning that a student came in and we sat down face-to-face for individual counseling, couples counseling, group counseling, an emergency appointment, whatever that might be. So that's in addition to kind of like presentations like I'm doing tonight. We did presentations to over 23,000 people last year. So let's see where you all are saying. 1,810. We are clearly highly in the agree category that most folks think like, yeah, that's the number. That's a lot of folks. You all are busy. I can look up your salaries online. You're busy for what you make. We're now sort of a quarter and 3/4. Okay, if you all agreed to that, I am so sorry to say that is not right. The correct answer is much higher than this. We saw nearly 3,000 students last year for direct clinical service. Why am I telling you this? Because again, when you encourage your student of like, have you thought about talking to someone? They may say like, well, nobody does that. And you can say, well, actually about 10% of the campus rolls into direct clinical services. That's in addition to workshops we do, support groups and everything else that we do in addition to direct clinical services. It's a very popular service. This generation of students seeks out support and help more than any generation we've seen in recent history. Okay, doing a great job. Let's keep going. Number 3, asking someone who's thinking about suicide, and I'm very sorry we have to talk about this, but suicide is a thing on college campuses, and Iowa is no exception. Asking someone, are you suicidal? You should be cautious about that because you could maybe increase the likelihood of them thinking more seriously about that. Not a roadblock, but you should be cautious about it. So let's see how you all think, whether you agree with that statement or disagree. We're having a strong out of the gate, a strong disagreement with that statement. A few folks agreeing. Okay, The correct answer is disagree. Absolutely. The research on this is absolutely unequivocally the same, which is if you have any concerns about this whatsoever, ask about it. Ask your student about it. Now, this can be a little initially shocking, right? Because somebody asked me a really serious question, but we know from the research that one of the most lethal components of suicidal thinking is its secrecy. And so what we find out from our students is, though it may be initially shocking to have somebody ask me about something I'm clearly aware of, in the end, our students tell us it is so relieving to finally have somebody say, I can see how much distress you're in, and I'm asking you about whether you're thinking about suicide. Oh, finally. So if you have any concerns about this at all, ask about it. We do the exact same thing. Okay. And we're really invested on this campus with our suicide prevention task force in creating what we call a sustainable culture of suicide prevention here at the University of Iowa. All right, next question. Consideration is needed before coming to the UCS, and now you know what that stands for, because a student's mental health record is just simply part of their academic record. Again, not a roadblock, but you should be thoughtful about it because mental health records, one student, one record is kind of how it goes. Wow. Boom, disagree 100%, pretty quick. All right, I'm glad I couldn't fool you on this one. You're right, absolutely. Mental health records are probably the most protected records on our campus. There are more state and federal protections around mental health information than really any other record on our campus. Even physical health, academic records, financial records, highly protected, but mental health even more so. This is so critical because if our students thought for 1 second that their information was not rock solid protected by confidentiality, they'd stop coming. Now, while that's a great thing, our confidentiality, it keeps us confidential from you all as well. So that's why we're going to talk about in a second about how we still can talk to each other, even with confidentiality. Okay, cool. Couple more questions. The number 2 drug of abuse on campus is prescription medications. And the prescription may be the student's or it may be someone else's. Number 2 drug of abuse on campus, prescription medications. Oh yeah, okay, we're about a 50-50 on that one. We seem split on this. Okay, we're sort of moving more towards 1/4 and 3/4. Most everybody seems to agree on this one. Okay, that's great. You're wrong. It's not number 2. I'm so sorry. Number 1, alcohol. Though the university has done a lot of really good work to sort of reduce the incidence of alcohol abuse. Number 2, thank you for the folks in Illinois. It's pot. Yep. Just go across the river these days and just kind of help yourself and be careful about bringing it back. And then number 3 actually is prescription medications. So when we think about substance use on our campus, we're always thinking of this trio together. We have a wonderful recovery program on our campus, our collegiate recovery program. So if your student is someone who might need assistance with getting into recovery, or if you have a student who has been in recovery and wants to maintain that on a challenging environment like a college campus, just Google University of Iowa recovery program and all the information about our collegiate recovery services will come up for you. All right, last question. The average number of sessions a student attends when coming to the UCS is 5 times, meaning that when a student thinks, I will go talk to someone, if they come for individual counseling, they're going to come 5 times before they decide, I think I'm done. I'm good. Thank you so much. 5 times. So what do you think? On average, 5 times. Agree or disagree? Most everyone's disagreeing, I see. We're sort of at almost like, 1/4, 3/4. Yep. For the brave souls that leaned in to agree, you are correct. It's about 5 times. On average, students will come 5 times to counseling before they think they're done. Why am I telling you this final piece? Because I told you at the beginning, all of our students have mental health. They have it. And challenges will come up. And because they are smart, creative, interesting, thoughtful, resilient college students, when they seek help, they self-correct pretty quickly. That's the good news. Not everybody will. We have some students that are in much longer term service, but for the far majority of students, they will on average come about 5 times before they think they're done. So this is really good news that when our students are in distress and you say to them, things aren't okay, have you thought about talking to someone? When they will lean in and engage in help-seeking behavior, they self-correct pretty quickly. So that's good news. All right, good job with the quiz. I hope you learned something. I was very impressed by everyone's numbers. And we'll move ourselves forward. So then what is the state of campus mental health? We've talked a lot around it. What actually is it? If you talk to the average student, they think it's this. Our students are so grossly over inundated these days by you're so depressed, you're so anxious, suicide rates are up. It's a little overwhelming. When we go look at that data, this report is not entirely true. It's the surface response of the data. When we really dig into it, we're not entirely sure that students are this terrible off with anxiety and depression. Some students do struggle with it. But the far majority of our students, when we really take a look at them, they're in distress. This has been a terrible year. It's been very, very difficult. Even if there's been some sort of like, opportunities that maybe would not have come up, this has not been a good year. And it's been a great struggle. And for our students who maybe were managing distress initially, this is like turning the boiler up to go from simmer to boil. And so we are aware that students do hold a lot of distress right now. So this is what we're really most concerned about is, not necessarily the diagnosis per se, but like when students are in distress, how do we help? What do we do? How do we lean into our students so when they come to seek help in 5 sessions, they feel better? So let's talk a little bit about that. So I said students often will make contact home when they're having distress. So we have 3 students' videos of them. These are actors. These are not the actual students, so you'll never know who the real students are. When students come to the counseling center, we ask them, who referred you? The number 1 source of referral for our students, themselves. They self-refer. That's far and above the most common referral source is me. I was the referral source. Number 2 is you all. So we asked several students, what is it you told your parents when you called that they said you should go to the counseling center? And what we did is we pulled a few of these scripts. We de-identified it. You'll never know who originally said this, but these are the voices of actual students expressing their distress when they called home. So the first one's Daryl. I'm going to play his video for you so you can see it, and then I'll show you the script afterwards for those of us that like to read those kinds of things, and it helps us hear it better. And then I'm going to lean into you, and we're going to make another word cloud. And I'm going to ask you, based on Daryl's call home, how would you advise him? What would you offer him? What kind of direction would you give him? Okay. So you sound asleep. It's 2 a.m. The phone rings, and it's Daryl, who is sort of the more thoughtless kid who would call you at 2 a.m. and not sort of let you wake up in the next morning and call you then. All right. Here's what Daryl has to say. Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me share my sound with you because I have to make sure you can hear this. Okay, we'll try this one more time. There we go.
I have been feeling weird. It's been hard to get to know people here. I mean, hard to make friends. I'm just worried no one likes me. Besides, I need to study a lot, so I don't have a lot of time anyway. But then I get really lonely, and I'm not sure what I should do. What do I do?
Okay, thank you, Daryl. So let's see what Daryl had to say. Daryl's naming something that's very common on our campus, which is social relationships become really important for our students. They're going to come to campus, they want to know where classes are, especially this year, because we're going to be coming back to kind of a new environment here on campus. So folks are going to have to sort of figure out logistics of where do I need to eat? Where do I get my laundry done? How do I get to classes? And then friendships become really important. And I can see Maya giving us lots of like positive feedback about that, saying like, yes, the nonverbals are, you betcha, those are so important. So when those get in trouble, our students begin to have a lot of distress. Even if other things are going well, when relationships get difficult or I get isolated or lonely, our students begin to have distress about that. So Daryl has called home, 2 a.m, got you out of bed, and is saying, I'm in distress about this. So let's build a word cloud together. So you'll need this again. You don't need to sort of do the coding in. Once you're in, you're in. What would you advise Daryl with? How would you want to help? What offer of direction would you give him? You can send words in, or if you want to send a phrase, you can put a hyphen or period between words, and then it'll upload the whole phrase for you. So the first thing I see coming in is a brilliant suggestion, which is join a club. Did you know there are over 500 student organizations on this campus? There are over 500. Did you know there's a waffle club? There is. Maya, did you know there was a waffle club? Yeah, there is. There's a waffle club, which is these are students who just get together and have waffles. And any reason to get together and connect with each other, we support. So the idea of join, such a great idea. Join a group, join a club, join a sport. These are really the LLCs, the living learning communities. What great ideas you already are having. So you'll see the word club and join center and big in the center there. I see one step at a time. Absolutely. Sometimes our students come in and they want to get everything done the first week. So overwhelming, such a bad idea. It is like, well, figure out what your classes are and where are you getting meals, and have you met people on your hall, and that one step at a time sometimes can break it up into pieces so the whole thing doesn't seem so overwhelming. But you are absolutely onto the right thing. I see engage, the dorm, you bet, groups, pursue your interests. Great ideas. All right, you are all on it. Let's go on to our second video and we'll come back to this word cloud. I promise. There we go. All right, this is video number 2. This is Tasha. Tasha is also calling home. She tried to call it too, but Daryl was on the phone with you. See how Daryl is, and had to hang up and call you like 2 hours later and get you back out of bed again. This is what Tasha has to say.
I just don't feel like doing anything. I haven't been out in a while. I just feel down and not doing well in classes. I haven't been to class in a while and don't feel like I can go back. It just gets worse each week and I don't feel like doing anything. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Okay. Here's a reminder of what Tasha said, so you can see that. This is not an unusual one, right? Is our students, we have discovered that when our students begin to have trouble, grades follow. I sort of think of it as the great barometer. As you know what a barometer is, it's sort of something that sort of predicts, it sort of like senses the barometric pressure and predicts the storm that may be coming or the sunshine that may be coming. When the pressure falls, storms are coming. And grades could be the same way. And we hear from students all the time that when they start missing classes, the more they miss, the harder it gets to go back, to the point that like, now I'm not going back. And we also are aware that academic schedules wait for nobody. So it's really critical for us to check in with our students about their academic performance. You can imagine at the counseling center, students come and tell us all sorts of super intimate things that they've never told anybody. And if we don't ask them about grades, they don't ever mention it. So these are really important things to find out, like what is going on when grades begin to suffer or classes get disinteresting or I don't like what I'm doing. It's clearly a barometric kind of sense of like, storm is coming. So Tasha's now called home as well, has gotten you out of bed. We'll pull up our old word cloud, the one that we did for Daryl, and let's join into this one. Tasha's called home now. How would you advise her? What help would you maybe sort of offer? Or what kind of directions would you want to give? And let's see what you all want to say into this one. Yes, I see lots of new things coming in. Yes. Oh, I see come home. Yeah, come home is an interesting thing. I'm glad that you all said that. Our advice most of the times, especially at the beginning when homesickness is, although it's not a sickness, it's just missing home, but we call it homesickness. When homesickness is present, we often suggest you don't sort of lead with come home. Because one of the things that we know that students really do well with is when they begin to identify with something bigger than themselves, which is a club, a student organization, a sport, their class, their friends, the residence hall they live in, things tend to settle down. When they go home, that connection gets harder and harder to sort of get going. So maybe sort of later in the semester, if things are not going well, come home might be a good idea, but we ask that you not lead with that unless there's a particular circumstance that really sort of requires that. We really want folks to plug into campus as best as they can. All right, I see counseling, great. Counseling is sort of one way to sort of students seek help, and we appreciate that you name that. But there are lots of help seeking options on campus. And whether that's I talk to my RA, who's the person on my floor, or it is I go to my academic advisor, who are like the geniuses and wizards of this campus, who know where all the buttons and levers are to make stuff happen. Maybe it's talking to clergy. We have a number of sort of campus churches, temples, mosques, and other religious organizations around us that clergy can sometimes be the place to go to. Or maybe it's just your roommate or your friend, or maybe it's even you all. But most important, you can see that word in the middle, which is talk. And wherever you decide to place your talk, place your talk. And so when things get tough, like Tasha noted, you are absolutely 100% on. It's express yourself, tell others that you're struggling. We more times than not find out that when students talk to each other about their struggles, the response they get from the other student is, oh yeah, me too. Our students are such highly accomplished people. They feel like they have to sort of keep it all together all the time because everyone else seems to be doing it. But what we know is the person I think is doing the most is doing the best is typically the person I know the least about. And so we really encourage folks that if you are having struggles, do just what you did, talk. Go to your counselor, go counseling. I see family doctor. Absolutely, if you got relationship there, that's great. Yep, consider a major change. Sometimes where our students start is certainly nowhere where they're going to finish. So you're all giving, again, really great ideas. All right, let's move on to our third and final video. This is May. Let's see what May has to say.
I don't know. Nothing really. I don't really want to talk about it. Nothing is wrong. I'm fine. I think sometimes no one would even notice if I wasn't there anymore. I just don't care at all, and it doesn't even seem to make any difference. But it's okay. I'm fine.
No one believes that. All right, here's what May had to say. So this is not an unusual thing too, is our students are distressed that our students can have, if it goes unattended or unresponded to or unseen, can start to lead to desperation. And our students can get desperate if distress goes unresponded to or unseen. So May, who's kind of the good kid and waited till you were at work to call you, did call you and is expressing some concern. So let's go back to our word cloud and let's give one more go with it. May has called home. How would you advise May? What kind of help would you offer? What kind of directions would you want to give May? And let's see what you all have to say about our friend May. So I see talk, counseling still solidly in the middle. Absolutely. I think this is good. Someone said exercise. Absolutely. And you may not say initially to May, like, you should exercise. But what we know for mental health is, and our students hate for us to say this, they're like, really, is that all you got? But we know that when the students move themselves around physically, they eat consistently and well, and they sleep consistently and well, a lot of these mental health concerns sort of go down. And it's hard to feel good when you're hungry, exhausted, and just physically sluggish. And this year did not encourage any of us to sleep well, be physically active, or eat well. Like, this was not the year for many of us for that. And so that's a really critical thing as well. I appreciate whoever said that. Someone has named suicide. Thank you for naming that. That certainly is a concern when someone says, no one even noticed if I wasn't here or not. And just as you said in this, yep, lean into it. Ask that question. We don't need to hem and haw or sort of do like the Midwestern polite thing on this. If you are having that concern, lean into that and ask that question. Such a great idea. Someone named a hotline. There are, again, lots of resources on our campus, which includes hotlines and whatnot. Journaling, so smart. Talk to your teacher. Yowza. Okay. You all have done just the work I was hoping you would do, as you named all the good, smart things. Well done. Let's look at our middle. Counseling, front and center. Counseling at a counseling center like the UCS absolutely is a great option. It's just one option. And we named lots of help-seeking opportunities on our campus. Talk, absolutely. Express yourself. Tell people the distress you're having. Otherwise, our students' distress lives only in their heads. And that is a vast, bottomless, terrifying place for anything to live. And so getting that information out and finding out that even though you're struggling, you may not be the only one, is settling for our students all in and of itself. Join, absolutely. Join. Being part of something bigger than themselves helps our students in so many really important ways. Good work, y'all. That was good. Yes, nicely done. Okay. I promised I would not have you do all the work, right? You did the quiz, you did the word clouds. I actually do have some things to offer you. So first and foremost, one of the things that our students tell us all the time is, I don't call home because my father advises me, or my mother tells me, like, well, when I was a college student, and it makes me want to sort of like scream aloud. So one of the things that we advise family and parents is, when your students call in distress, ask them about it. Help them tell and expand their stories. Ask them questions to find out more about what's going on. Our students are so smart. Remember, they sort of write themselves in 5 sessions or less. And often we just want to engage our students so they will sort of like think things through and get that story out so it doesn't just live here. And the very act of talking things through begins to generate solutions often for our students. So hit number 1, listen some more, and listen some more again, right? Rather than the advice giving kind of thing. If that doesn't work, we say, see the first one above. If that doesn't work, see number 1, repeat number 1, follow 1 through 4. And of course, our favorite, do all of the above. Primarily help our students. They are smart, accomplished people, and they simply sometimes just need to have somebody help them tell their story so they can hear themselves talk and get that story out and put it into sense for themselves. Now, this isn't the only thing you can do. Here's some additional things. Emergence individually takes time. We're all going to be emerging. We're all emerging right now. We're coming out of last year, and things are going to continue. It's not like things are over, but an emergence is beginning to happen, especially as we come back to campus. And this just takes time, and everyone's going to do it differently. Some people were deeply affected by this pandemic in ways that are going to be sort of irrevocable, right? Someone died, I lost work, we moved, whatever that may be. And some of us maybe didn't feel it as much as others. Like, I didn't get sick. I don't know anybody got sick, and I kept my job, and actually, it just got quiet. But other than that, and so everyone's coming at this in a different way. Who I am as a person made a difference. My access to resources all makes a difference. And so patience and grace is going to rule the day. The coming back to campus, while it seems glorious to many, is upsetting and concerning to others. And so we're going to hold so much patience and grace, and hopefully you will do the same to help your student maintain their mental health as they sort of come and try to find out how best to navigate this new space, especially after last year. Some distress is expected. As I noted, homesickness, it's even got a name. Our students often begin to miss everything that's been familiar to them, and they come to campus, and although it's new and exciting, I miss stuff, and I'm grieving kind of the loss of what used to be. And so homesickness is the name that we use for that. So I would worry less about initial distress. Help your student tell their story, tell them to tolerate, get involved, because transitions, no matter how excited I might be about that transitions simply still are hard. Communication, we prefer the screen door. One of the things our students tell us is they really appreciate when you, before they leave, have a discussion about like, what are we doing about talking with each other? Just the very act of thinking about that and asking leaves our students like, oh, I'm glad you thought about that. Now, we don't like the closed door. The closed door is you went to campus, we moved, we did not leave you a forwarding address. While we enjoyed you for the first 17 years of your life, I think we'll never speak again. As we don't like that one. The open door, we don't like that one as other, which is like, oh my God, my mother texts me every 10 minutes. It's like, I threw my phone in the river yesterday and I can still hear her texting me. And so that screen door becomes really the critical thing, which is let your student kind of guide this. What do they want? And what you'll find is that discussion is important in and of itself. And what you all decide then may not be actually what turns out to be when students come to campus. That's all good. It's fluid. But that discussion and asking that question, our students tell us is like, really relieving that we talked about that. Again, as we talked about, listen, guide your students, ask them, help them tell their story by asking open-ended questions and let them tell you their story before you jump into advise, fix, take away, settle, those kinds of things, and let that conversation unfold. Identities matter. We are not neutral beings. This is a predominantly white campus. Students that come to this campus and find like, oh, this is very familiar to me. I know how to do this. We'll have an easier lift. For students who are coming here and things are not familiar and people do not look like me or don't have the identities I have, it is a heavier lift for them. That's additional work. And so identities matter. So be thoughtful with your student because you know who they are and the campus they're coming to help them prepare because identities absolutely matter. Additionally, you all are uniquely positioned on this one. No one else can do this but you, which is grounding your students. Our students remarkably are so smart and talented, did so many great things to get them to this point, and then they come to campus and think like, none of that works anymore. I got to come up with all new stuff. And you're the person that can say when distress happens to say like, well, honey, don't you remember in 11th grade when this kind of similar thing happened? What did you do then? Or you know what our family always says about that? Or, you know what grandma used to do? All those things sort of help remind our students of like everything they know already that got them to this point to make use of those things again. Encourage them, absolutely. How many times did you all say this in our word cloud? Encourage them to be part of something bigger than themselves. Join a club, get involved in class athletics, whatever it might be. Get involved in student government. There are so many opportunities for our students to plug in and be part of something bigger than themselves. So these are all good ideas and they all work. And then sometimes they don't. And so if you reach a point with your student where you think, I think we're at a bottom line, it may be time for you to step in, especially when you think safety is concerning. And safety can be physical safety, emotional safety, social safety, academic safety, any of those things that you may have to step in because you think this is not getting better. It is now like week 10 and we're concerned now. And if you do decide to step in, please keep this in mind. Reach out. When things get unusual or get stuck, activate your campus partners. As I said, we are yours and you are our best allies. There are hundreds of us on this campus who are simply here to support our students in pursuing their academic goals. And so when you think bottom lines are getting reached, and hopefully they won't, but if and when they do, reach out and activate your campus partners, okay? So let's talk a little bit about communication because I've said a dozen times already, confidentiality, confidentiality, confidentiality. So how do I talk with you all at the counseling center is one example of this confidentiality thing is going on. So let me tell you a little bit about when parents have actually called here and said, I'd like to talk to you about my son who I know is seeing you in counseling. And we say like, oh, confidentiality. What we've heard back from you all. Here's the first one. I pay my kid's tuition bill. And we thank you for that. It helps keep the university running, but it doesn't mean we're going to still talk to you. Or there's this one. I always particularly like this one. He's my son. If you say that to me, I will wholeheartedly agree with you and appreciate your accuracy in identifying other people important in your life. But again, it doesn't necessarily get us to communicate past confidentiality. There's this one. My daughter tells me everything anyways. You might as well tell me she's going to tell me. So if you don't tell me, she's going to tell me. So if she's going to tell me, you should tell me. Again, we'll be impressed with your resilience on that, but it may not get us to chat with you. I don't like this one at all. This is, I'm holding your business card in my hand. It is clearly your writing on the back of the card that notes my child's appointment with you. I know they're seeing you. If you say that to me, it only sort of discourages me from handing out my business card. That sort of is the end result of that attempt. This one, do you know who I am? I usually go with sort of irate parent, because I usually don't know more at that point. And then lastly, we hear this one, my least favorite, I pay your salary. To which I usually will respond of, oh, is that you? Because we need to talk about you're not doing such a great job, and maybe you're only getting what you pay for. Okay. All joking aside, no matter how you approach this conversation with us, in the end, we know this is entirely what you're saying to us, and we hear this, which is you are simply worried about your student and you want something to happen. You want the best thing to happen. And so we hear that when you activate us as your campus partners, as our allies, and we hear that. So with that in mind, let's talk about how we can talk and still maintain confidentiality for the important reason I named earlier. So FERPA release in my UI is NIMBY. What does that mean? So FERPA is that federal law that protects student records. This is the thing in my UI where your student can go and give you permission by clicking a little button so you can see their academic records and all these other things. And by the way, if you go in someday and you can't all of a sudden access it, they're probably mad at you about something and like, they put you in, they can take you out. And then NIMBY means not in my backyard. So that basically means is that mental health records, as I told you, don't fall into this. They're not covered by FERPA. They have much higher levels of confidentiality and legal protections around their security. So there's this, releases are beautiful things. If your student will sign a release of information, we talk to you. It's really kind of that simple. From our perspective, sometimes when we think of bottom lines getting reached, we will say to your student, it's probably good, would you sign a release of information? We think we need to talk with the people at home for you. And I would tell you 9.5 times out of 10, when we ask for a student to sign a release to talk to you, they sign it. They're used to you being in their lives. And if they take us seriously and they'll sign it. You can do the same. I know you're talking to your counselor. Would it be helpful if I talked to them and shared the blah, blah, blah? And if your student will sign a release, we talk. It's really kind of that simple. You can come in too. It is not unusual for a family to be in tow, a faculty member, an RA. Lots of people bring students over to the counseling service. So you can come too. We are glad to receive, but we cannot keep secrets. If you call and say like, I know you're seeing Maya and I wanted to tell you a couple of things I think she's not telling you, but don't tell her I called you. We will, yes, no, don't worry about it, Maya. We will not sadly agree to that. If you tell us and we are seeing your student in counseling, we will tell them you called and what you told us, because we simply can't keep secrets about those things. Now, you can call us and you cannot tell us your student's name. And if you do that and tell us the story, but not their name, we'll consult with you. We're glad to consult with you. As soon as you tell us your student's name, we have to make a record of the contact. Okay, so you can decide that. And some parents are like, absolutely tell them I called. I'm concerned and everybody should know. Be our best consultees, as I said. We can talk, who doesn't like talking in hypotheticals? You can call us and say, my son is seeing you, he's really struggling with depression, and we hear he's not going to school. And we can say like, well, we can't talk to you about that, but let's talk about someone like your son who might be struggling with depression like your son, who's not going to classes like your son. And we can talk to you in hypotheticals about those things. But the bottom line is we'll talk. If you call us, we're going to talk. We really want to have that conversation with you because, as I said to you 1,000 times, who we think you are is exactly this. I can't say it enough. We need your ears and eyes on the ground for the things that we may not do ourselves. You may be the first people to smell smoke for what could become fire. And you are ours and we are your best allies. And so that communication between us helps us to do the thing that this very topic is called, which is everyone's got mental health and we just have to help our students sometimes keep theirs. All right, let's talk a little bit about meds and then we'll wrap ourselves up. If this is the first time that your student is self-managing, we highly, highly recommend to do a practice run. Don't send them with a pocket full of pills to campus and like hope they'll make good on it. We got July in front of us. And so with July in front of us, that's a great month to sort of say like, there's a doctor's appointment, here's the insurance card, there, you know where the pharmacy is, go do all of that. And then there are great apps for phones that will remind you of what pills to take when, so that can get all set up. But as I told you, when students come to campus, they are worried about where their meals are coming from, where classes are, who their friends are, and pills can kind of fall off the continuum of important things. And as you know, those pills can be the medication can be really helpful when used as prescribed. When it gets off kilter, it can begin to cause more problems than it's solving. So do a practice run. Make appointments before departure, before they come to campus, get refills. If you can get 90-day refills, that'll get you all the way to like the fall break. Blood work, if you need to get that done in time. If you, as somebody said in our word cloud, if you can maintain a current medical relationship, now our folks in Thousand Oaks, California, probably not super practical to like fly home to see doc. But if you are kind of over in Illinois, or if you're from the greater Iowa area, keeping medical relationships, if practical, is a great idea. If that doesn't work, we do have psychiatric services on campus as part of the student health service. Records can be gotten, sent, and those kinds of things. Now, there's only 3 of them, and there's 33,000 students. So appointments, waits for appointments can get larger as we make our way in the semester. But there is those services on our campus as well. And then lastly, as I noted, we're just one service. There are and this is not an exhaustive list either, but there are so many services on our campus. And I put a big spider web. Think of us as a big spider web. May it never be the reason you didn't call us because you couldn't remember who to call for what. Call any of us. If you call my office and you really should have called Student Disability Services, we're going to help you with that. In fact, it's not unusual for us to call ahead to Student Disability Services and say, Mrs. Thomas called and she's concerned about Maya and she's going to call you. She called us and we told her to call you and blah, 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 blah. We're a big spider web. We're a big web. Tug the web in any place and the whole web will respond to each other. And you can kind of see, again, a whole list of services. Okay, phew, everyone breathe. Everybody do like willow tree. Good yoga, nicely done. Yep, thank you. We talked about some serious stuff. Please remember that the University Counseling Service, Student Life, and others are here to partner with you, partner with you to assist your student success. All of our students have mental health. Sometimes things get challenging, and we know that when they lean into help-seeking behavior with your encouragement, they self-correct fairly quickly. Okay, I think we did all of this. Woohoo! Good job, team. All right, that was good. All right, with all that said, maybe we should do this next because I think there may be some questions from you all. Maya, will you help us out? What kind of questions have come in?
Yes, so far we have 2 really good questions.
All right.
So the first one, if a student is deemed to need long-term mental health counseling with the psychologist or a therapist, does University Counseling have long-term mental health counseling, or do they refer them to someone off campus?
Yes and yes. That's a great question. Thank you. Super thoughtful. So there's one thing about Iowa City you may not know. If you do know this, great. If you don't know, there is only one thing that Iowa Cityans love doing more than driving hybrid cars and shopping at co-ops, and that's going to therapy. So we have a lot of mental health practitioners literally within walking distance of the campus on all sides. And so if insurance is good and somebody's looking for like a longer term individual relationship, a continuance from what they may have at home, we have case management services here at the UCS, and we will work with your student around who to see, who has availability, what insurance they take, transportation if that's needed, and we'll work with your student around that. And they can call and ask simply for a case management appointment on that kind of thing. We do not offer long-term individual counseling because then we'd only see about 100 students every year, and we simply can't do that. Now, we do a lot of group therapy. Students, this is a lonely generation, and so they love doing therapy in groups. And if students want to, group can be a long-term counseling alternative. I finished my group this past May. I had 2 students in there had been in group for over a year, had come like 60, 70 times. And so there are long-term options within the UCS with group. And if students are seeking something individually, there are options within the community, a lot of options within the community, and we can help with that. Any other questions?
Yeah, there was, I think you just answered, there's a question about support groups.
Oh, yep, please go onto our website, counseling.uiowa.edu, counseling.uiowa.edu, and we offer a number of what will be in-person groups for the fall and some virtual groups as well. And there's a number of support groups that we do not consider to be clinical services. And so students can attend those as they would like. If they're not on campus, there'll be opportunities to do these virtually as well, no matter where you are in the country or the world.
The last question we have at the moment is,
Yep.
If we have a student currently struggling, should we communicate with you prior to coming to campus?
Yep, great question. Yep, here's what we would advise. Have your student come to campus, get all those basic things settled, like where do I live and where do I eat and where are my classes? And then sometime in the first week or second week, have them roll into the counseling center, set up that initial appointment. They can do that once they get to campus and get that relationship started with somebody at the UCS. And then we can then do an assessment, make some determinations with them of what's the best thing to do. And if we need to solicit records from home, we can do that if they've been seeing someone at home. But no need to do that until students get to campus. All right, I see that we're about 10 to, so we probably need to wrap this baby up. And I see
Yeah.
Bria's back on screen, which is like very.
No, no. I was just
I'll
trying
wrap
to give you
this
some
up.
good nods. Yes, this is
Yep.
great. There were a couple that came in at the end that well, where is the counseling center? We can
Yep.
answer that one
We're-
quickly.
Yeah, we're in five different locations. We have an east side. There's a river that runs through the middle of our campus and everybody's oriented to it. So there's one on the east side of the river and one on the west side of the river. We also, for your students particular, is we have 2 staff therapists housed in Catlett Residence Hall. And while they are housed there, they are there to serve everybody in the residence halls. They're on the east side. Catlett's on the east side of campus. And so if your student is living in the residence hall somewhere near Catlett Hall, there are 2 staff that are there to serve our students, particularly that are living in the residence system.
Yeah. One final question, Barry. I think this is a fairly quick one. We can give
Yep.
it to you. Kids, students, young adults on stimulant medication. Is there somewhere that they can be prescribed? Because if the students can't get home for an appointment, to keep their prescriptions at home.
Yep. So again, there are 2 psychiatrists and a psychiatric nurse practitioner associated with the Student Health Service. So you can Google University of Iowa Student Health Service. The psychiatric service page will come up for you. Same thing. Students don't need to do anything until they come to campus, and then they can get in to see one of the providers who will then work with them to make determinations about the best way to pursue those medications. Sometimes those are Schedule II drugs, and you can only get 30 days of them, and that's it. Like your home, our home is no different. You can't swing a baseball bat without hitting, a CVS or a Walgreens. So super easy to make those connections here on campus.
Can I throw my hat in the ring before we?
Please, yes, please do.
I just wanted to add just 3 quick things from my experience, if that would be helpful for everyone in this webinar. I think the most important thing that Barry has touched on is just let your student set the pace for
Yes.
communication, because I know in my first semester, my dad tried to call me almost every day, and I was overwhelmed and I had a lot on my plate, especially being a first generation student. I was trying to figure more things out than other students might have been. So, if your student's a first generation student, you might not be as aware of what's going on college. And then even if you did go to college, it might be different now than what you experienced. So just make sure you're letting the student set that communication up. That's probably the most important thing, I would say. But then also, this is something my dad told me that kind of freaked me out, but I called him once and was telling him about some of my struggles, and he did listen, but he said, "That doesn't sound like you." And I appreciated that. However, it kind of made me realize, am I not myself? What's going on? It kind of made me have this huge reflection moment. So I would just say, make sure that you are aware that, your students may change throughout their journey here, and that you're not comparing them to their past selves or some sort of expectation. Just know that things may change, and, for the better, maybe. Just be aware of that. And then also, we used to do in-person orientation, we used to do this thing where parents were able to write a handwritten letter to their student. I still have mine from my dad, and that was something really special to me. So maybe think about doing that once in a while. Just surprise them with a letter, knowing that you're proud of them, that you're there for them, that you know that they're doing, their best. And that was something special to me. So just a few suggestions there.
Well, that is a perfect way for us to end that. And I really appreciate you sharing personally on these things. I sort of talked about bigger kind of rubrics, and I appreciate that you shared a very personal story. So thank you so much. That's going to wrap us up then, I think, for today. Welcome to the University of Iowa. Remember, we are your allies and you are ours, and we will work together as we make our way into the fall semester after a most unusual and difficult year. And we'll work together to help your students keep their mental health. All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much.